Well, stocks soared this week despite the world's economic woes, and Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina joins us now. Senator, let's begin, before we get to the stock market, with the big story of the day, and that, of course, is that AIG, the insurance giant, which has received $170 billion in taxpayers' funds, is going to pay out $165 million in bonuses. Your reaction, sir?
Well, we shouldn't have given them the money in the first place, so I think a lot of the blame falls on the politicians who think we can keep bailing out these companies. Some of these banks and even insurance companies are going to have to fail. We need to let them down gently and protect depositors and policyholders, but it doesn't make any sense for us to spread all this money around like we're doing now. I think this is only the tip of the iceberg. With all this stimulus money moving through state and local governments, I think you're going to see a whole lot more of the same, and even the people who are overseeing it are already telling us we should expect it.
When you say more of the same, you're talking about corruption or what?
Well, corruption, fraud, just ineptitude, waste. It always happens when you throw money at someone and say you have to spend it in a hurry. Fortunately, we are seeing some banks lending, but generally it's healthy banks that didn't need the TARP money in the first place. So we have some positive signals that are coming out of our economy.
Let me ask you, though, and it was the Bush administration, in all fairness, they were the ones who bailed out AIG, at least originally, and the argument at the time was that this company was so interwoven with the whole financial system because they basically had given insurance policies to the banks on all of their toxic assets, all of these mortgage securities, that if they went down with all those insurance policies, that this could just cause the entire financial system to crater. You know, it's the old argument, too big to fail.
Well, if they're too big to fail, they're too big. And I think we should have recognized that in the beginning, and the government could certainly stand behind the policies that were critical to our economy, but that would have been a lot cheaper than just throwing money to AIG and allowing them to give out these huge bonuses. But we're seeing this with the banks that took a lot of this money. Some of the good banks that were almost forced to take it want to give it back now because the government is in their offices almost every day with new requirements. The government's just not set up to do what we're promising we can do here, and as soon as we can back out of this, I think the market will see more certainty and more stability. But right now, I'm afraid the government's doing more harm than good.
Let's go to the question of the Obama budget and the other breaking story today, and that is that the Obama White House is reportedly open, not suggesting, but open to the possibility of taxing employer health care benefits. Now, I know this would represent quite a flip for President Obama if he were to accept this. On the other hand, it is a Republican idea. They have generally supported the idea of this as a way to get revenue by taxing the more gold-plated health care benefits. How do you feel about it?
Well, we're seeing a lot of flips with the president now. We saw it on earmarks last week, and he was very critical of John McCain during the campaign that McCain would suggest taxing health care benefits. But I'm afraid the president's not talking about the same plan that McCain was. McCain was simply talking about trading one tax for another and actually giving workers a $5,000 a year tax credit to buy their own insurance, or either to pay those taxes if they got their policy through their insurance company. And I'm not sure the president is going to be talking about trading taxes. I think he's looking for new revenue and raising taxes in a lot of places. And so I'm not going to be supportive of what he does unless it's a new health care plan that helps people pay for their own insurance and makes it fair to all Americans.
Overall, stepping back for a minute here from these individual issues, overall about 56, I think it is, days in, how do you think the president's doing, Senator?
Well, there have definitely been some bumps in the road here, and as I mentioned before, I think we're seeing more changes in the president than we are seeing in Washington right now. He's talking about spending, taxing, and borrowing levels that we've never even imagined before. It makes the Republicans look like amateurs at overspending. And I think even Barack Obama's ardent supporters are very, very concerned about the level of spending and borrowing and taxing that he's talking about. So we'll see during this budget debate. But I think Americans are starting to get a little bit alarmed and some are even outraged at what we're doing as far as government spending and intrusion into the private market. So I think, I know I'm, for one, am concerned. I had hoped that the president would move and govern more towards the middle, but what we've seen so far suggests a sharp turn to the left with major new government policies. And Chris, the problem here is the things we're fixing are not what's wrong with the economy. The carbon emissions did not cause our economic problems, or people without health insurance did not cause our economic problems. What we're doing is throwing a whole lot of money at these new programs that the president wants to get through under the umbrella of a crisis, but we're not fixing the things that cause the problem. It really gets back to our credit problem and our housing problem, and we need to have some focus. And that's the biggest problem I see so far with the president, is he's so spread out with so many big issues all over the board. We're not addressing the real core problems that we're facing right now.
Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina, we want to thank you for coming in and talking with us today, sir.
Thank you, Chris.